Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and my guest today is Kathy Shannon, who is the Executive Director of the Petroleum Museum. And we're going to be talking about not only the future of the Petroleum Museum, but the past, because we're right at the cusp of celebrating their 35th anniversary of a major entity in this community, something that touches the lives of a lot of school children and a lot of adults and brings people in from all over the nation and other countries to see what we've got at the Petroleum Museum. So it's a real pleasure to have you here, Kathy. Thank you so much for taking time on a busy day, because I know from the middle of September till the end of October, you're not going to stop for a minute. So to come in on the first week in October and tell me what we've just done and what we're going to do. But let's start out by talking about, well, I want to talk about you for just a minute. I want you to tell me how you got to the Petroleum Museum.
Well, I started at the Petroleum Museum in 1995 as Director of Education, and our former director, Jane Ferries, she's my mentor, and I will always thank her for giving me that opportunity. And I've worked as a volunteer in museums all over the city in the past for the past 20 years, and then was fortunate enough to get a paid job, and was education director for 10 years, and then was made executive director about 5-6 years ago. So
all of that experience just gave you such a great foundation.
It really did, and like I said, a wonderful person to work under and learn, and a lot of volunteer work in the community up to that point that gave me a good basic foundation to do that. So it's a great learning curve.
And the other thing that I know you are so proud of your staff at the Petroleum Museum, not only your paid staff, but your volunteer staff, and the longevity is a real plus for the museum. You've got a lot of people that have been there, been dedicated for a long time to that museum.
We really do. We're 35 years old, and we actually just honored 4 ladies who have worked in the gift shop every single month since the museum opened.
Oh,
and so
gosh.
that's the kind of volunteers we have. They have been there, they love the museum, they love the industry, and it's just a great combination. And then our staff, I couldn't ask for a better staff. We're so blessed, and they're willing to work and put in extra hours and do extra things, and I think that's what makes us so great.
And also your board and your leadership in the community that support this, because we're going to be talking over the next probably 2 weeks about the future of the Petroleum Museum. And so it takes a lot of leaders in the community that get behind a project and really give their time as board members or as fundraisers or all the other things.
It does. Our board has a great vision and is so supportive, and they will lead us through that process as they have for 35 years. And we are fortunate to have a great board.
And everybody in the Permian Basin knows where the Petroleum Museum is, because as they drive down the interstate and see this oil derrick, then immediately they're reminded about it. But talk about the history and how it got to be in that place and all of that.
It's a wonderful history. George Abell is our founder, and he decided back in the late 1960s that we needed to build something to honor those people that are in the industry and that came out here to the Permian Basin when there really wasn't very much here. I mean, those are your true pioneers that came. And he wanted to do something to honor those people, to preserve that heritage, and then to talk about the industry. And so the museum was chartered in 1967 and opened in 1975. And we opened with what was our West Wing and our East Wing. The East Wing talked about the geology of the area, and the West Wing talked about our cultural history. So it was a great combination. Then in 1981, they added the North Wing, which talked more about the technology of the industry itself, what it takes to get oil out of the ground and how we do that. And it's a great learning process. So from 75 to 81, we were really growing. Then we added the outdoor oil patch in 76, 77 that kind of came along right after the opening. We've added the modern drilling rig that you can see from the interstate in 1996. We opened our transportation wing with the Chaparral Gallery in it in 2004. We opened our education hall in 2006. And here we go it's time to, think about what's changed in the industry and what we need to do to tell that story better. And so it's just been a real solid period of growth, and we want to keep going.
And I have to tell you a funny story. One time, about 10 years ago, I had a friend who came to visit, and I said, we must go and see the Petroleum Museum. And they just died laughing. They said, what in the world would you have at a petroleum museum? Would you have a cup of Black Krug and then a can, a can of oil, and you have to have a whole museum for that? And I said, you just wait till you see this place. And as they came out of the museum, all they could say was, wow, wow, wow.
And that, it's fun as we go into this renovation where we're thinking forward and what it's going to look like. But we go back to our guest book, and our visitors will say, oh my goodness, I learned so much. This was wonderful, so great. Wonderful comments. And I think it's a great place to learn about the industry. You get this wonderful overview. You learn a little bit about the geology, you learn about the industry, and you learn about the people that have been here for thousands of years. So you get a great cross-section of what it's like to be here in the Permian Basin, and that's what we're proud of. That's who we are.
And the most fun is when you drive up and a school bus is out in front, and here comes this stream of little kids that have just been through it, and you say, did you like it? Did you have fun? And they just start tumbling out all the things that they saw and did, and even the teachers are saying this was a great field trip.
It is. We're proud of that.
As they're getting ready to go back to Crane or Seminole or somewhere else.
Somewhere for a bus ride somewhere.
But the interesting thing is that one person had this dream and made it happen with a lot then of other support, was able to infect others with this dream, and then as they caught the dream, then everybody got behind it. So you've had a lot of community support from all over the Permian Basin all these years. But the thing that amazes me is this building, you're about to enter into a $10 million update of the facilities, but you're not going to have to change the footprint. You're not going to have to add any building space. You're just updating exhibits, you're changing up the insides, and that's exciting.
It is exciting because we know we can tell that story within that footprint, and you look forward down the line, the more square footage you add, the higher your bills become.
Expensive, that's
and
right.
So we have a wonderful design firm out of Cincinnati, Ohio, which people at first said, well, you're hiring somebody from the north to talk about the industry. Who better to come in with the thoughts and the views that are not always correct, and to learn about the industry from the bottom up and then become huge advocates. They've had more fun learning about the industry, and I could say they're true converts of what a great place it is. But we're staying within the original footprint. The East Wing and the North Wing are the two that will be affected. It is $10 million in exhibits, and so you'll start in with the geology, and you'll learn about the Permian Basin, and then you'll come through with the birth of the industry with the Abrams Well in Westbrook, and then learn about the growth of the industry. And of course, that starts with the Santa Rita in the 20s and moves on really up to the 40s, that we're talking about this industry really just beginning here. And then the growth of the industry that'll take you from the 40s to the 60s, when it became so big. All the major oil companies were here, and it was such a hopping place. And then we'll move on into the science and technology of the area. So it's a wonderful addition, and we'll keep that history.
But again, going back to Abel, he had this vision and worked with people so that the building was adequate to carry us into the future.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to stop this conversation right now and come and have a break, and then we're gonna come back in just a minute and continue it and talk more about what you can expect in the months ahead, the weeks ahead. We'll see you in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.